are talking about gender-based violence among young mothers. Of course, we have been seeing how the news have been going. We have been having very many cases, and sometimes you just pause and wonder, what is happening with the society? Why are we going through so much and nobody is talking about it? It has come, you know, inakaa ni kama it's the news of the day. No. And that is why we are here, because, you know, a family with a mother, we really need to take care of that woman, because that woman is going to make that family stand. And if a family has stood up very firm, then we have a very firm society. So we are here and we want to start our conversation on that pick. Kindly keep this conversation running. Our social media handle, we are GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. Of course, keep those comments coming. Tell us what you think about the topic and what do you want us also to say. What is in your mind? We also want to know. So I'm not alone. I can't do this alone. And we are joined by a very lovely lady. If you remember her, uniambie kwa comment, by the way, she has been here. If you remember what she had come to talk about, I think you already know that she's the best. She's Madam Gaki. Welcome so much, darling.
Thank you.
You look so good.
You too. It's been quite some few days hatujaonana.
Yes.
But I'm happy to be here. I'm always happy to come and, you know, discuss these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited
and
that
we empower each other. Yeah.
Of course, nakuambia the world. You know, it's what you love doing.
Very true.
Yeah,
very
and
true.
I'm so glad that you accepted our invite.
Thank
it's
you.
Always a pleasure having someone on board. Kama wewe, hey.
Asante.
It's the best. So
Asante.
you have seen how the world has really changed, and I felt you were the right person. We would sit down and talk about gender-based violence among young mothers. Because these are people who are, you know, jua ni kama upcoming, you know, mothers. They are building their homes, you know, and
it's
we want
experience.
to, yes, it's new experience. They might also not understand really what is going on, what is happening. And now it's why we want to come and talk about it. As a young mother too, you know, I also want to know, inafika aje mpaka inafika mahali, penye sahi news tunaona. Watu wameuana, watu wamepigana, you know, they are very, wengine wanaua hata watoto.
Wengine wanaruka kichwa.
Yes. I don't want to go up to that stage. And that is why you're here. We start
true.
with what is gender-based violence.
Okay. Gender-based violence, of course, as the word suggests, gender, it can be either male or female.
Yes.
But maybe today we are handling the issues of young mothers because, you know, we are coming from a time, the International Women's Week. So maybe that's why we are handling it. But I'm sure we'll throw in both, both men and ladies. Yeah. So gender-based violence is violence. And you know, violence is anything that someone brings harm or suffering to somebody. Yeah. And it can be a threat. Any kind of activity done on somebody that brings harm or brings suffering, that is violence. And sometimes it will come in the form of a threat. Sometimes it's coercion, being pushed to do something that you don't want. Sometimes it's the denial of a right. You know, there are basic rights to a human being, but you're being denied those rights within the spaces where those rights should be provided. So that is violence against that particular person, whether a woman or a man. And that is what we are here to discuss, because we've realized that violence or gender-based violence is becoming very, very common. Very, very common. And there are so many triggers that we will discuss. But anything that is done against another human being that causes them to go through hurt or suffering or a denial of a right or it's a threatening situation, they fear for their lives. That is violence against somebody. In a very simple way. I may not be able to define it, you know, the way the activists may do it in very, very
technical terms.
Yes,
which
technical
we
terms.
Might not even understand.
Or even a clinical counselor may bring it out in a very clinical way. But I just want to bring it out in a very layman way that it's a threat. It's anything that brings you harm. It's anything that brings you suffering. You're not able to function as yourself.
Now, watu waelewe. You know, we are speaking to young mothers, you know. And of course, if it's not a young mother, kuna mtu amekaa hapo who is a mother-in-law of someone, na anaeza hata yeye kupata hint of what is happening. happening
Exactly.
kwa watoto wao. So when we're talking about it, I like the way you are mentioning it has become very common.
Yes.
You know, nowadays actually sometimes hata unajua tu leo kwa news lazima kutakuwa na
kakesi mazie,
kakesi mahali,
kakesi ya mtu tu amegongwa ama watu wamefanyana tu.
Yes.
Wacha hata hivyo. Even like something I've also been noticing amongst celebs. Amongst celebs, I mean, you look at every page, mpaka you're thinking, are they doing this to clout chase? Ama it's genuinely happening in those houses. Because out here we are celebrating someone, they are a celeb. But kumbe, even in their own marriages, in their own family setup, until someone speaks and you're thinking, hata huyo anaweza fanya vitu kama hizo.
Na labda ni number one fan.
I mean, tunamcelebrate huku nje, you know, you're
number
thinking.
Number one fan kwako, and then you're like, kama yeye inaweza mhapenia. Now, you know, we always say, pesa ni sabuni ya roho, and you think it's sabuni of everything.
Exactly.
So I really even realize it's not about money. Gaki, kindly tell us, what is it? What are the types of gender violence, gender-based violence? Because we would want to know. Vile umesema vizuri, any hurt,
hurting, harm, suffering.
Yeah, suffering.
Yes. So
what can we have as
a few types, or a few, you'd call them types. So that people don't end up thinking ni kugongwa tu mangumi ama kuwekwa black eye, hiyo tu ndio violence.
Unaenda kusema uligongwa na
na dirisha.
Nilikuwa nafanya cleaning, nikienda kuinuka
hivi dirisha ikani. So we have psychological violence, and actually when I was doing a bit of study on this, I realized some countries have classified very many things as gender violence. Okay, it varies from country to country. Because these are legal issues. Kuna mahali nafikanga inakuwa story sasa ya gava. So unapata different governments have classified violence in different ways. So the one I realized was physiological or psychological violence, where somebody is always attacking you and na maneno and or even actions that are not necessarily putting any harm on your physical body, but psychologically they are making you unstable.
Ile koldo
vitu kama hizo cold. hata treatment zingine tu kwa nyumba zina kudemean as a human being. Mtu anadeal na wewe ni kama you are lesser of a human being. So it gives you a lot of psychological hurt, a lot of psychological suffering.
And I think that's what yenye ina lead to depression.
Of course that will lead to depression. Depression will lead you to suicide. So that is violence on its own. Na sometimes mtu akikwambia I walked out of my marriage because there was a lot of emotional abuse. Unafikiria huyu mtu si mstro, huyu mtu si mature, we start judging them and things like that. But there are some people who have perfected iyo emotional abuse. Juu anajua hezi kukuekelea ngumi, atashikwa na gava, and that one has a lot of evidence. So they end up doing that psychological violence or emotional damage on you, demeaning you as a human being. I always like saying, ni mtu tu amekuchukua, akaona wewe ni less of a person, amwe sasa kukuslash na maneno ama na actions, just to demean you emotionally. Sorry.
And there is this thing of when you're talking about psychological, the effects of it, because I don't want you to go far to lose track of these questions. What are the effects? Like, could it affect me in my work performance, house performance, you know? Will it affect me?
Absolutely. Itaku affect kwa sababu we human beings, and especially now that tunaongea about young mothers. So unajua sisi kama ladies, everything for us is interconnected. My job is connected to my husband, is connected to my children, is connected to my friends. We connect everything. Wanaume haweza kuseparate.
Sijui aje. We need to bring them here on board.
Exactly. Haweza kuseparate. But for us ladies, if I am going through emotional trauma or emotional abuse, it will show at my workplace. It will show with how I relate with my friends. Even my dressing. It will show.
Kwa dressing?
Ata kwa dressing.
Oh my God.
Ndio unaonanga mtu anaamka anasema, today morning I just woke up, I feel like doing nothing. Amevaa tu hood, tracks. Yani nani dem tu yu ngarapoa, but that day they are just feeling like, you know, because it's all connected. So emotional, you know, the soul of a man, the heart, the mind, that is like the control center. If that part is affected,
kila kitu,
everything else gets affected. So that is why it will show. When emotional abuse starts happening, it will show in every, it will affect, not even just showing, it will affect.
And I think that is why if you have good friends, real friends, sometimes they might ask you, what is wrong with you today?
But do you know, sometimes hata ukipitia hizo trauma na hizo story zote, hata za kuhurt and you're suffering, do you know you even keep off people? There are people who don't know how to go out in front of people when they are suffering. So unapatanga tu mtu ame-retreat into akakona, ako tu peke yake. Until somebody, maybe by the help of God, realizes, hey, this lady, she's not the way we used to know her. Then you start reaching out. Otherwise, that the effects, first of all, I told you, intention ya ule mtu anakuabuse emotionally amekurudisha chini. So they are beating, wanakuchapa war, wanakupiga war yenye wanajua utawahi inuka. As in they want to just finish you.
And you know, I think a woman is a being, I don't know how we are made, but when we get married, I'm talking from my side, you know, I came to realize, you know, before you get married, kuna tu kaile ka relationship ka kidogo kidogo tu, you're not so much attached to this person. You get married, you have one kid, you know, unajipata tu, like your heart, your mind is attached to that person. And the moment they try to hurt you,
yes,
hata watoto utaki kuwaona.
That is the person you trusted the most.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the person you gave your heart to.
Yes, yes.
Then they have hurt you. Wameku emotionally, they've wounded you emotionally. Definitely, you're going to react.
Psychological.
So that is psychological. Emotion. It's very emotional. It affects the center, the inner man. That is the target. Then we also have other types, of course, now the physical violence that we all know, where somebody is hitting you. Na nakuchapa tu kabisa. We also have sexual harassment. And I want to tell you, sexual harassment is even in marriage. I tried to argue that with some gentlemen, some gentlemen somewhere, and they were like, no, you cannot tell me right. I'm having sexual harassment. It's my right. I'm like, even if it's your right, not my right? The reason marriage is for two consenting adults is because you are in agreement. Meaning, even at the place of sex, you should be in agreement. You cannot grab your wife and force her to have sex with you ati kwa sababu ushalipa hizo mang'ombe. It is harassment either way.
Wengine hapana.
Hawajalipa na wanakuforce.
Ni gears tu za watoto wanakuwekelea.
Exactly. So sexual harassment
so you
is
want
happening.
To mean hata mimi mwenye nimeolewa.
Yes.
Naweza kuwa na sexual harassment.
Yes.
Kwa nyumba yangu.
Yes, there can be sexual harassment in two ways. One, you're being forced. Say you're even sick.
Yeah.
But somebody doesn't want to practice self-control. They'll force you to have sex with them against your wish. Of course, hata Bible imesema tusinyimane. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, inasema tusinyimane. Lakini, you're in a place where you're at a disadvantage because you're sick. So someone takes advantage of you at your weakest moment. Usiku saa 8 usiku ya nini unasikia umegongwa ngumi na umepinduliwa na somebody is on top of you.
Mnano tizi vitu. Hi, you guys, you need to know.
You are not consenting at that point. Probably you're even sick. We've seen people and had people who do that. Another way there can be sexual harassment is where, and this is very sensitive, where now sex is used as a tool. It's no longer used to nourish the marriage. Sasa watu they no longer use it to nourish the marriage. They are now using it to hurt each other, kuchapana vita. You know, you give me so that I do this. If you don't give me, I won't do this.
Gaki, I want you to pause because I think your topic tunafaa tuitandaze vizuri. Because for sure, you know, sometimes you talk and I say, am I a victim? I'm not saying I'm a victim anyway. I'm just taking this laughter to take a short break. We come back to tandaze vizuri. And you uelewe. Are you una go through that? Because I would really want to know. Yes. So let's take a short break. We come back and continue with that topic. Thank you.
Everywhere, GBS.
Thank you for tuning in. We are still here and we are talking about gender-based violence among young mothers. And the conversation, we have already picked on it. I'm here joined by a very lovely lady who is the best taking us through this topic, Gaki. If you're tuning it in right now, make sure you have written your comment, send it to us. I would want to know how you think about this topic. What do you want me to ask Gaki on your behalf? So our SMS line is 21144. Our social media handle, we are GBS TV Africa. So welcome back. And before we had gone for that short break, we were talking about sexual harassment as a form of gender-based violence. Na ukasema pia kunyimana ni violence.
Especially when it's used in a way to manipulate or gain advantage over the other person. Because basically what you're doing, una demean huyo mtu. You're making that person suffer unnecessarily. So nikasema when you use sex as a manipulating tool against your spouse, and yet you're in a marriage where you're in a covenant, that is harassment, honestly, and that is very wrong. Because what do you expect that person to do? Yet we know very well you're not supposed to go out and cheat. But then you've decided to take something like sex and use it against the other person to your own advantage and to their disadvantage. So it is harassment. But also there is the other aspect of where rape is occurring even in marriage, where there is coercion.
Kuna hiyo sasa.
Rape.
Before we go to the rape part, you take sex as weapon. Ni ile ya kusema usiponipea pesa ya nywele, you sahau and forget.
Exactly.
And I have to make that man struggle anipe hiyo pesa. Okay. All right. I'm noting.
There is no difference between you and something. Okay, I won't say that one because we know people who use sex for money. But you are in a marriage. You are in a covenant. You are in an agreement. That should not. You're harassing the other person. You're making them suffer for something that honestly they should be getting without effort. Because you agreed in sickness, in health, in good times, in bad times. So sex can be a form of sexual harassment can be a form of violence.
Na kuna sasa kuna hiyo rape.
Na kuna the rape side. You know, all these put together, whether it's this side of harassment or the other side of violence, of raping and everything, if you put that together, we said violence is anything that puts that person under a threat, it puts that person under harm, it puts that person under pain, under suffering. That is exactly what you're doing.
Unajua huwa tunasema, when you're talking about rape, most women there wanasema, unless sasa another person ani force into sex, hiyo ndio anaita rape.
The externals, not your spouse. That is not true. Well, we thought that.
Ati hiyo sasa ndio nitasema I'm sexually harassed, not by my husband.
No. That is what we thought. But as studies are being done concerning family and matters about sex and all that, we've realized there's a lot of rape going on in marriages. A lot of rape. A lot of violence, sexual violence. Even being forced to do things in the name of sex that you are against, that is violence. You are put under coercion. Sorry to mention this on air. I hope there are no kids watching, but things like anal sex. Some people are forced into anal sex or objects, using of crude objects. And you are in a marriage. And it's because somebody thought, Ati, we want to... I saw it somewhere, let me try. Some of those things are wrong. And when you are not in agreement, it is wrong.
When when you're saying it, they tell you, because anakuekelea kama utaki nihanye, we try it. Hiyo ni threat.
Manipulation. That's a threat already. You're harassing that person. So there are very many forms of this kind of thing. And of course, again, we cannot leave the issue of sexual violence without looking at also the sexual violence happening out here. That is now the rape from unknown people. Even being, a lady is walking and men are jeering at her, and you know, all those kind of things, that is sexual harassment.
And you remember, I think it was last week, this lady ni kama alikuwa kwa gari. There was that video.
The border guys who attacked a lady.
Yeah, you know, somehow it was sexually because
that is all sexual harassment and many other harassments.
Yeah.
Basically, that was violence on that lady.
And there is this point, you know, someone is asking me, Ashiro, what about when I give birth and then even before my days, my husband wants to sleep with me and forces me into it. Is it still the same?
It is harassment. Anything that is done that people are not in agreement. It doesn't matter how you sugarcoat that sex thing. If people are not in agreement, that will be harassing that lady. And it's just a matter of time. Now the harassment stops from, moves from being a harassing situation, it becomes violence. Ni cha nguvu sasa. It's coercion. You know, medically, there's a period of time when a lady is supposed to take before she can resume the conjugal activities. So even this man who is forcing this lady to have sex before that time is over is not only now violating the girl, she's also violating a medical rule, a medical case. I mean, that is a medical situation. You're violating that. So you're not only violating the sex act in as far as marriage is concerned, there's also a medical issue that comes into play. And kidogo kidogo, it becomes a legal issue.
Now, I want you to at least tell us, you know, going through that, before we move to the physical violence, having said about the psychological and the sexual violence, being part of the gender-based violence.
Yes.
And especially it's touching as young mothers.
Yes.
What can we do to at least, I don't, sitaki kupoteza familia, but I still don't want these things happening in my family.
Yeah.
What can I do?
For every time we say, what can I do about a situation, we cannot go straight into what we can do without looking at the triggers.
Yes.
Ni nini hizo zina cause hiyo story yote ihappen.
Sure.
Ni msee amechange ama ni dem ameanza kuchange, na kama ni kuchange ni nini imeanza kuhappen. So we have to look at the triggers.
Yeah.
And some of these triggers, especially sasa hizi siku zenye tuko, utapata a lot of these things ni stress induced. There's a lot of stress going on with people because the economical status ya Kenyans wengi imechange.
Sana.
Aya, kama ni the needs versus the wants and versus the supply. The needs are too many than the supply. So watu wako na stress ya kumake it in life and demands all over, pressure kila mahali. That is a trigger ya hizi vitu zote kuanza kuhappen. And you know, mara nyingi, especially for young mothers, they need to understand that when somebody is stressed, when a man is stressed, the first person that gets the heat of it or the pressure of it ni yule uko karibu naye na ni yule unaishi naye.
Mimi ndio shock absorber.
Wewe ndio utapata hiyo stress ukiwa, as in wewe ndio utapata the consequence ya hiyo stress ya yenye ako nayo. So it's good to look at the triggers so that you can handle every trigger that comes. Another thing about why the women may be facing this gender-based violence, more the young mothers, is because sometimes when you're a young mother, and when we say young mothers, she could be married or not married. So you can imagine probably now in a case where a young mother is not married. So kuna pia hiyo stress ya ulipata mtoi aje. Ukupata mtoi ka umeolewa. So you may not even be being harassed by a man now, you're even being harassed by your own family. You've become ashamed to your family. You have probably dropped out of college ndio ukapata mtoi. So it's also a situation ya kukuput through your violence. And by the fact that maybe they'll beat you or do all this manner of things, kukutesa ati Julie get pregnant, that is violence against you as a young mother. So you need to look at what are all the causes. And then once you know what is causing this kind of a situation, number one, mi usema, hakuna mtu hata mmoja aliwahi crucifywa juu aliongea. You got to speak out. As soon as it starts happening, you have to speak out. But how will you speak out if you don't even see the signs and the symptoms? Because unajua sasa watu wengine sasa hawajui hizo ndio kabla uambiwe by the ulikuwa unaharasiwa ama hiyo ilikuwa gender based violence. Exactly.
Unajua wengi wanagojea agongwe Unajua
Exactly.
nikatwe mikono. Hiyo ndio sasa nitaita mpaka I call the whole world and tell them I have been going through this.
Exactly. Ati for you now to call it gender-based violence, lazima uone kuna kitu imefanyika.
Nilaze hospitali, niitishe msaada.
Exactly. But then you can, the first thing you can look at, ndio ujue whether it is becoming gender-based violence. One, if it's in a marriage context, unaanzanga kuona mzee ameanza kuwa very possessive. Na siiti possessive, I like adding obsessed.
Okay.
Mtu ameanza kukua obsessed na wewe. Unaenda, umetoka, ulikuwa unaongea na nani? Sometimes it's even a call from your brother. Already yo mtu ameanza kukua. Ako too obsessed. Ama insecure. Ati ukitoka tu hivi kidogo hivi msee haezi relax, ajue umeenda job or something unarudi.
Haezi kupea
peace. They are
peace.
so insecure. They're even insecure with your success. They're even insecure. So you're a young mother. They're insecure even with the child that you've gotten. Like utampe more attention than yeye. So insecurity becomes too much for such a person. So at that point hakugongi.
Tusiseme ni mapenzi. Tusiconfuse.
Get confused.
Unajua anasema aki bwana yangu ananipenda. Unajua hata nikitoka kwa nyumba atakagi niende nishinde huko nje.
Hataki hata nitembe.
Ananipigia simu every time. Kumbe ni hiyo insecurity.
Saa ingine it is insecurity.
So when it's done too much, we need to start tunaanza ku raise.
You need to know. Tena says you dated, you love him. So you know how he behaves. So when you see a change or when you see an action that triggers, unasema hapana hapa kuna kitu yenye ieleweki, you know. So those are some of the signs that you can look at. All of a sudden somebody who was not abusive, sahi ako comfortable kukutukana. Hata kama sio wewe amedirectio matusi, but kwa nyumba anatukana na ovyo ovyo.
Akina kuna watoto. By the way, there are people
na kuna watoto. Mtu hata haogopi matusi mbele ya watoto ama mbele ya watu wengine. Those are triggers. All of a sudden he's abusive, using abusive language. Temper is another thing.
Imepanda tu.
All of a sudden. Na it may not even start in the house. Mna drive. Mnaenda church. Mtu boda cross tu hivi.
So how he treats other people is also something unafaa kukua nini. Wow, let us take a short break and then we come back and also note more triggers zenye zinakuwa. Ni nini na trigger gender-based violence? Thank you so much for the comments. Asanteni sana. So let's take this short break, we come back.
Everywhere, GBS.
Thank you. We are here. We are almost coming to the end of this conversation, but before that, we still have some points that we have to exhaust. I want to remind you, thank you so much. Actually, I appreciate the comments that you people are sending me. And I feel it's good how you are also involved in this conversation. Our social media handle, we are GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. If you have just tuned in, there is still something on the plate. Hatuja exhaust yote, and there's something you're going to get from this conversation. We are talking about gender-based violence among young women, and that is why we are here, and we were talking about the triggers, you know, and you just mentioned about anger, and I noted that it's not anger towards me, even anger towards other people.
Yes.
It's something that I should note. It's
something you should note because that anger, there's, you know, anger is it's, I call it a verb. For me, I look at anger as a verb. And what is a verb? A doing.
Yes, it's a doing word.
A doing word. Anger does a lot of harm. You may think you're just bottling it up, but even as you're bottling up anger, it is doing something within you.
Yeah.
So even for a situation where somebody has started exhibiting his or symptoms of anger and a lot of temper, that can be a trigger. And you need to know ni nini hii nafanya huyu mtu akasirike. What is the frustration behind this anger? All of a sudden temper yake inainuka.
Mara moja tu.
Just like that. Those are kind of some of the triggers that can really push somebody to be violent towards their partner or towards this young mother.
Yes.
For the young mothers, and I want to say this, that we said gender-based violence is both ways.
Yes.
It's men and women.
Yes.
For the young mothers, because we are calling them young mothers, many young mothers suffer post-traumatic stress disorder from giving birth.
Yes.
From that whole process, ya kubeba mimba, na kuzaa, and all that. And if they are not taken care of, given help, actually nyingi ukuja because the work around taking care of a new baby, it's intensive.
And you don't even know.
Yes.
Especially
and this is something you are not trained for.
Yes.
Nobody told you that this is how it's going to be. You've just been observing young mothers giving birth, your mom giving birth. You've been observing these things, but you've not been a player in it. So now it has happened for you. And all babies are different. All situations are different.
Sure.
So the young mothers should also be helped. Around that time, effort nyingi yekwe kusaidia huu mama. Help the mother with the baby. Help the mother take care of the house. Because this responsibility hazishangi juu umezaa. You're still the one to take care of your house. You're still the one to make sure your house is clean. You're still the one to take care now of your baby. And your husband is still there to be taken care of.
I think that's another topic. Tukianza kuguza hiyo, my dear.
Yes.
Hiyo wachana nayo tuendeleze.
Hiyo stress ambayo inaambatana na the giving birth of a new baby can also push a mother to start also being very violent towards her husband. Na maybe hataweza kumgonga juu, maybe hata hana nguvu, but maneno, the anger and the temper.
Ndio tunakuwa na mbaya wakati.
Yes. So that's why nasema violence is both ways, and we need to take care of that.
Yes.
Violence against men is also taking place a lot nowadays. And let me tell you, in as much as some of our men are suffering, especially because of alcoholism. Na unapata a man who is an alcoholic, unampata anachapiango hapo nje na bibi yake. Plot yote inaona. You understand? So it's also not right. We do not agree for that to take place. Even verbal abuse of the men, it is taking place. We cannot ignore that fact. And we are saying all those violences, all those types of violence, lazima tujue trigger ni nini.
Na ndizo sasa hizi zina lead kwa ngumi, kisu, buduki, sijui nini.
See, I said it's a verb. All violence is a verb. It's working. It's doing something. It's graduating from one level to another. It becomes an abuse. Another day it's a harassment. Before ifike violence, sasa na ikuwe hata ni kifo, time has passed on. So we need to tame it from when it's very, from down there. And ndio nikasema get to know the triggers. And to be able now to solve that, the first thing you must do, you must speak out. From the moment you start realizing some of these symptoms. Ongea. And you can talk in different channels. One, kalisha huu mtu wako chini. Kama it's a situation mahali mnaweza ongea, keti chini, mwambie by the way, siku hizi unatukanana sana. What is happening? Mimi sikukujua ukiwa mse wa kutukana. What is going on? Akiruka akatae, akiruka atakatae, even the Bible says, when you try to win mtu amekukosea, unaenda ukiwa peke yako, amekataa kukusikia, pick another person. Sit this person down. Yes. Ikikataa, mpeleke mbele ya watu. Sasa, by the time anakataa, maybe he's becoming violent. Sasa mpeleke mbele ya, kama ni serikali, kama ni chief, kama ni wazazi. Because you cannot keep quiet when matters of violence are taking place. Go the whole way in trying to expose that issue. Don't cover it up. Because at the end of the day, utadungwa kisu, tutaachwa huku, na sasa at that point tutajua. Afadhali tungejua saa zile alikuwa anakutukana tukusaidie, kushinda tukuonange kwa news. Sasa tusemange kai na huyu alikuwa neighbor yetu.
Na ndio alikuwa mpole. Alafu there's this thing of some men, they are so cool, you know, but mukikosana sana analipuka na ile neno atakwambia ni ukicheza na mimi naweza kuua.
Yes.
Anasema hivyo Friday. Monday anasema hivyo. 3 months, 6 months. Hiyo inaweza kuwa
December atakuua.
The way you are putting it. Nimeanza January.
Yes. By December atakuua. You know why? Sasa wacha hata ati ujua nasema. First of all, look at it even spiritually. Hata Bible says, whatever you confess, you possess. You cannot keep saying nitakuua. Ama nitajinyonga. Siku moja nitakufa siku moja nitajinyonga, muachwe mkiishi. You're the people who threaten people with suicide. One day they will do it. Because whatever you possess, whatever you confess, you possess. And the Bible says the power of life and death is in your tongue. Yes. So you keep confessing those things, it will happen. So ukiambiwa utauawa the first day, usilale.
Nianze kujiuliza.
Jiulize ni nini hii? Mbona ameongea hivyo? Can we discuss about it?
Na tuache kuwa blinded na hii kitu. Sielewi juu hata mimi siko sure. Ama ni mapenzi ama ni kutumiwa vibaya.
Yes.
Jina mapenzi ni kama siku moja Gaki unafaa ukae hapa utuambie
what
this is the true meaning of love. Even when people are fighting.
Yes.
Because kuna hizo fights zenye mtu anainua mkono hata arudisha.
Yeah.
Ningekugonga wewe, si ndio? Ni vile tu. Alafu baadaye mkisova nakwambia, unajua vile mimi nakupenda ndio maana sikuwekelea hiyo kofi.
Ama unasikia mwingine anasema husband yangu anipendi juu anichapangi. There are ladies who believe that.
Are you serious?
Yes, there are some ladies who believe mimi nikigongwa napendwa. It's because he loves me.
And now that is on another
level. And that's another level. So the first day unaambiwa nitakuua. Please sit down, think and find a way to handle that so that he never repeat it again. Bring him to his senses, because probably hata ni maneno tu alitoa, but you need to bring him to his senses, make him accountable for the words that he speaks, ndio azinalify, azimalize nguvu, asifikirie hiyo ni za kuchezeanga. You get? Asitumiange hizo majina, asifikirie hizo tu ni za kuongeanga. He has to be accountable for his words. The last thing I would want to say about handling the triggers is this: let us not normalize violence or harassment.
What we have now done.
Yes. We have to teach our children what violence is.
And it's not
we have to teach those younger ones than us. Let us teach them, the young girls, when they are in those two boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. Aone chali yake amemkasirikia, amemuacha kwa stage, na anamrushia mkono. You know, that's how it starts. Anakuembarrass in front of your friends.
Yes.
Some of those embarrassments, do not take that in. Refuse to be embarrassed, to be harassed in that kind of way. Because utaendanga ukisema, he's the men are always right. Mi niko na makosa.
It's gonna big deal.
Mi sikuona big. In fact, ni mimi nilikuwa nimemkosa. Then you go back begging and begging. The next day he does it again. Ya mwisho atakuekelea makofi in front of everybody, even in front of your parents. Yet this is just your boyfriend or just your girlfriend.
And there are parents who say, ukienda kwa mzazi unamwambia, mama, kijana wako kuna siku alinichapa. Wewe na wewe hata mimi nimeishi kuchapwa mara ngapi, like huyo sasa ni mwanaume.
Normalizing violence. We have to speak against it and say it is wrong. Let me ask you, these border guys who are attacking that lady on Forest Road, do you wonder how we've normalized it? Can you imagine there is no man?
Alishikwa.
Si kushikwa, alisema, wacheni. Nobody said stop. Nobody. Even when that girl was screaming, nobody said stop. Because we have normalized. We have normalized taking advantage of the other person.
And I can even imagine the trauma yenye huyu msichana ako nayo. Hata unaweza ogopa ku drive alone in the car.
We say Kenya is 88% Christian. Kwao wanaume wote wa boda kukwa na Mkristo, hiyo siku angesimama atetee Ukristo wake by protecting that girl.
Hata aokoke hiyo saa. Hiyo hata asiokoke hizi siku zingine.
Hiyo siku aseme, wacha nivae Yesu leo.
Sindio?
Yes.
By the way, nasikia hata kusimama hata kama hatukujui.
So I think that was, and I keep feeling maybe God alitumia hiyo situation hiyo siku kutuonyesha how much as a generation and as a society, how much we've gone low.
Gaki, time has gone. And I really feel hata hatujamaliza, but I'm so thankful how you have really helped us. Because some things you have pointed out, hata sikuwa nazijua. Niseme hii ni trigger. Niseme at least I can be helped in this way. And I think it's also a conversation that we should take, episode 2 to malizie because of time. Thank you so much, darling, for being here.
You're welcome.
For your time, for your wisdom.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, at least
God.
ambia my viewer, umeenda tutakupata wapi?
Sasa, mimi niko kwa social media, Gaki Njero, that's the name I use. And my number, I'll post it on the program so that you can get my number anytime you need to look for me. Yes.
Alafu musijali ati munaanza kusema juu ninaona ma comments za hapa so, no, it wasn't short. Kuna part 2. Wait for it. Tomorrow we are having a part 2. Still with this very young lady and you know napenda tu vile anaisema anaifanya. So thank you so much my viewer for tuning in, for your comments. Namaste, you know. Thank you so much. Until next time, I've been your host Shiro Wangige. Be careful, take care, and take care of our women. Bye.